Have you ever felt sad, alone, tired, or exasperated to any degree? At some point or another in all our lives, we experience low times. Times when happiness seems like such an unattainable thing that we may just want to give up. These emotions are so invariably linked to the human condition that artists have, for decades, incorporated these anguishes into their artwork. This style of artwork is known as expressionism, painting not what you see, but rather what you feel. Edvard Munch was an early pioneer of expressionism. But who is Edvard Munch really, and why is he now known as the father of expressionism? Hi, my name is James Maurice, and I'll be talking about the artist Edvard Munch. To better understand the artist Edvard Munch, first I'll discuss his early life, then I'll discuss his artwork and artistic career, and last I'll discuss his later years and lasting legacy. Let's begin with his early life. Edvard Munch's early life can be marked by death, tragedy, and a religiously zealous father. According to Britannica.com, Edvard Munch was born on December 12, 1863, in London, Norway, to a middle-class family with much tragedy ahead of him. Munch's mother would die at the age of 5 years old, leaving his father alone to raise 5 children. Unfortunately, his eldest and closest sister would soon die at the age of 15, and another sister of his would be institutionalized her whole life. His brother would die at the age of 30. According to SmithsonianMag.org, Munch's own health was quite frail as a child, as he suffered from tuberculosis, and he was often seen spitting out blood. Munch's father, a Lutheran physician, would instill within his son, Edvard Munch, a sense of the inevitability of death. Unfortunately, as with many other people in Edvard Munch's life, his father would go on to pass away in 1888, leaving him alone with just his sister. So now that we know the tragedies that Edvard Munch had to endure during his early life, let's go on to talk about his artwork and artistic career. Munch's artistic career can be heavily defined by mental illness, manifesting itself through his expressionistic style. So what is expressionism, you may be asking yourself? Well, according to Britannica.com, expressionism is an artistic style in which the artist seeks to depict not objective reality, but rather subjective emotion. In other words, it's painting what you feel rather than what you see. And what he felt, Edvard Munch would often document in his diaries. Contemporary diagnoses have drawn the conclusion that he may have suffered from bipolar disorder with psychosis. These diagnoses are supported by the fact that he has documented several auditory and visual hallucinations, as well as the fact that he had been hospitalized for suicidal urges. Munch's condition was compounded by the fact that he, at times, suffered from alcoholism. So, how did Munch transform a childhood trauma and mental illness into art? Well, Munch was an early pioneer of expressionism, and he used distorted lines and shapes and figures to convey senses of loss, tragedy, fear, and horror. Around the time his father died, he began a series of works collectively named The Frieze of Life. Paintings in this artwork included melancholy, jealousy, despair, anxiety, and death in the sick room. Among the paintings in The Frieze of Life was a painting called The Shriek, more commonly known today as The Scream. According to Psychology Today, Munch wrote of an experience where he was walking with 2 friends, then the sun set, and the sky suddenly turned to blood. In his diary, he described hearing a great scream that pierced through nature. Obviously now we can know that this is just an auditory and visual hallucination. Nevertheless, his experience inspired him to create The Scream, an 18-month-long project conveying what he felt at that time. The painting depicted a man facing back with his hands on the side of his head and his mouth open as if ready to scream. Now we've discussed his artistic career, paintings, and influences in his art, let's look at Munch's later life and lasting legacy. Munch's later years, unfortunately, weren't as artistically inclined as his earlier years. However, as is often the case in Munch's life, they were marred by tragedy. According to Biography.com, though Munch had many successes in his earlier years, these successes were not able to be enough to hold his inner demons. In the 1900s, Munch's alcoholism spun out of control, and he suffered numerous nervous breakdowns. In 1908, he suffered auditory hallucinations and would go on to check himself into a private rehabilitation center in Norway. 1 year later, he would go on to check himself out and continue his artwork. Unfortunately, his glory days were behind him. He moved to Norway to live in isolation and died on January 23, 1944, at the age of 80, as a lifelong lover of painter. In 2012, his painting, The Scream, would go on to sell at auction for $120 million. Edvard Munch's early life was marked by death and tragedy, which he carried onto his adult life and influencing his art. This created a whole new wake of art, now known as Expressionism. Today I discussed the artist Edvard Munch, and I discussed his early life, his artistic career, and his later years and lasting legacy. In conclusion, Edvard Munch lived a life of turmoil, loss, and hardship. Munch's life shows that no matter what tragedies you endure, if you have a passion, you should pursue it. Edvard Munch, he had a passion, he pursued it. And even through tragedy, and even through mental illness, and even through loss and death, he pursued it. And he went on to be a great, successful painter. This has been my speech on Edvard Munch. Thank you.